Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, the Retro Cup has arrived in the Go Battle League, banning the Steel, Fairy, and Dark-type Pokemon, which coincidentally makes Dragons and Psychics some of the best types in the game. I'm going to try out ORANGURU to see how it's going to fare today. It says on PvPoke it's one of the best Pokemon in this meta. I want to give that a go. I stream my battles basically every day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN starting 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, so if you want to see these battles live, make sure to check me out there. But without further ado, let's get into the battles and see what this monkey can do. Alright, heading right on into game number 1 here, Shadow Dragonite in the lead up against a Dunsparce. Alright, there's not a lot of things in this meta that resist my Dragon-type damage, but Dunsparce with Rollout outpaces me to Rock Slides and does so much fast move pressure, so I'm going to catch that Rock Slide, store up as much energy as we can, and use our Cresselia as a way to sponge energy. Since I know Dark types don't exist in this meta, normally safe swapping Cresselia is pretty safe, right? That's what the name safe swap implies. In comes the ORANGURU, which you might expect to be a hard answer to Cresselia because they resist our Psychic type damage. They have Brutal Swing, and they also just are going to be able to do a lot of damage with these confusions, but we resist confusion. We're Cresselia, we can survive these Brutal Swings pretty easily. Despite catching that move, we're still going to be able to survive 2 more Brutal Swings, well, 1 more from this point, which I think means we can get to 3 Grass Knots, knock out this ORANGURU, or draw a shield before we have to shield ourselves. What are they going to throw? It's almost certainly just going to be a Brutal Swing here. We still survive, I think, on 1 HP. Come on, Cresselia, yeah, just barely. It's one of the bulkiest Pokemon out there. Grass Knot has been reached. Are they going to shield, or will they just let this go? They are going to let it go. We have switch advantage now, and in the back we see their final Pokemon is going to be a Cresselia. We reach the Grass Knot at the very end here. We can trip them down a little bit, so they are also running the double Psychic team, but with a Dunsparce rather than the Shadow Dragonite. I'm going to bring my Dragonite in here. You don't really want to take this Moonblast if I can help it. I'm going to shield it up. It could be a Grass Knot bait if they're absolutely crazy, which it looks like this opponent is. They end up coming in with Dunsparce, which also has a move loaded, but at this point I see my win condition. I just need to trip down this Dunsparce, get shields down, and then my ORANGURU is going to be in a pretty good spot. As I was saying at the start, they don't resist our fast move or charge move pressure, so our Shadow Dragonite, despite taking a lot of damage, is also dealing a lot of damage here. They let that go, which means we get the full Dragon Breath down. We can throw Dragon Claws against this Cresselia, knock them out, or take shields here, depending on what they want to do. But I think our ORANGURU at this point can close out this game as long as I can get this next Dragon Claw off before getting knocked out, which we are able to just barely here. We know that ORANGURU into Cresselia is actually kind of a neutral matchup, as we saw earlier in this matchup, but I'm pretty sure because we have enough health here, we can survive 2 Grass Knots, get to 2 Brutal Swings, and knock out this Cresselia. The first move does come through. It is a Grass Knot. They're not going for Moonblast. The play here in this matchup is always go triple Grass Knot against the ORANGURU, so it does make sense that our opponent is doing this. Another Brutal Swing has been reached by me. Doesn't quite knock them out. As you can see, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but these confusions are chipping him down. Even if I can't get off this next Brutal Swing, I might still be able to Dragon Breath him down with our Shadow Dragonite. But we end up reaching this Brutal Swing at the last second. Might as well throw it at this point, take out this Cresselia, and win our first game of Retro Cup. GG's to our opponent, showing just how powerful these Psychic types can be in the backline. Alright, next game, we're going to see our Shadow Dragonite in the lead up against a Furret. This is a very cool Pokemon. I was not expecting this too much when I first looked at the meta, but it looks like this Pokemon's actually extremely powerful, right? They have Sucker Punch, which is an insanely powerful Dark-type fast move, and they also have access to Brick Break, which can lower my defense stat, make it so their fast moves do so much damage to us. I'm going to bait the superpower, I'm going to throw this Dragon Claw, hopefully get a shield, and then I'm actually going to swap out. You might expect me to want to stay in this matchup and to try to play it out and just like straight up lose that Dragonite, but the thing is, once I trip it down with Dragon Breath damage, this is going to be range where Moonblast could knock them out. I'm not that concerned about non-stab Sucker Punch against my Cresselia, despite it being super effective. What move do they throw? It's a Brick Break. They could have Dig. They could also, I got Hyper Beam 1 time today, so it could also be Hyper Beam, but luckily that was just a Brick Break, which does lower our defense stat, but they let that Moonblast through. I knock them out. In comes once again the ORANGURU here. We can reach a Grass Knot. Even though we're debuffed, I'm pretty sure we survived this pretty easily. We might still be able to get to 2 charge moves, maybe just 1, I don't know for sure at this point. Let's see, Brutal Swing does come through, and we have a decent amount of health left. There's a good chance we can get to another charge move after this Grass Knot lands against this ORANGURU. We do land this Grass Knot, they do no-shield it. We have shield advantage still, we have our Shadow Dragonite alive, and we just barely reach this Moonblast at the last second. This is going to do a lot of damage, put them deep into the red, and at this point, they're going to have to rely on their final Pokemon if they want a chance to win this game. We come in with our ORANGURU to try to farm them down. They obviously have a bit of energy. I have to shield something this game, so I guess I might as well start now. In comes our next confusion. Do we confusion them down before the next Brutal Swing? Just barely we do, and our opponent top left. They must not have a hard answer to us in the back. Alright, Shadow Dragonite, another Furret in the lead. This one's shiny though, so it's a lot cuter. I'm going to try to do the matchup the same way I did the last time, although this time, it looks like our opponent swaps out to Cresselia. This is kind of fine with me though. I'm going to catch the Moonblast, potentially on our Cresselia. It could also be a Grass Knot bait. Either way, I like keeping my energy in my Dragonite and also having the fast pressure that I did against this Cresselia. It kind of puts me in a good spot both ways, right? I get the chip damage from throwing that Dragon Breath damage, but I also still have my energy on Dragonite later on, because a Dragon Claw wouldn't be all that impactful against a Cresselia. I think at this point I need to go for 2 Moonblasts if I want to knock them out. The Dragon Breath chip damage has basically made it so I only need 2 Charge Moves rather than 3, which makes it so much nicer in this mirror match. And we get the attack drop actually with that Moonblast, which doesn't help out a ton, but I mean, we'll take it, right? Any less damage that I take here is going to be a little bit more helpful than if I did not get that debuff. We can still go for the next Moonblast here, overfarm as much as possible to have energy against that Furret when it comes back in, see what their final Pokemon is, potentially win this game, depending on what that's going to be. What is going to come in? It's going to be another double Psychic, so it's Furret double Psychic. I'm running Dragon double Psychic. We saw double, or Dunsparce double Psychic, just Psychic types everywhere in this meta, which does make sense why people are running that Furret as a way to counteract them. We are going to hit to another Moonblast here. This is fantastic because this damage, as you know, is going to do a ton of damage to this monkey. I know their whole team. I know our Dragonite into that Furret is going to be our best matchup, and I also know Furret doesn't really have much charge move pressure against any of my remaining Pokemon, so I might as well shield up that super effective Brutal Swing. We stored all of this energy from earlier on, so I know I can get these 2 Dragon Claws off, potentially no-shield my Dragonite, and sweep the endgame with our Oranguru. We do draw a shield there, and now I'm going to no-shield this knowing that it's just a Brick Break. I don't really want to shield here. I want to keep it in the backline just in case I need to shield potentially a Dig, a Hyper Beam, or maybe even just a Brutal Swing. We go for the Superpower, guarantee the knockout or the shield here. If they do no shield, we can finish the game off with Oranguru, and I guess even if they do shield, we still finish it off with Oranguru at this point. We can shield this up, or no shield knowing that it's just going to be a Brick Break, and then save a shield for a potential Brutal Swing from that Oranguru later on this match. We end up going for the Trailblaze here, which actually does get caught, it looks like, on their Oranguru, but now we're in a really good spot. I'm not in range of getting Sucker Punch down before I can Confusion them down. I went for that Trailblaze just to give me that extra fast move pressure here, and we get the full Confusion down. We even had a full-on move loaded if I needed to throw it, but we get the win there. GG's to our opponent. Another normal type in the lead. I could see a lot of fighters potentially having play in this meta, despite the fact that there's so many Psychic types, just because there are so many normal types as well. We try this time to catch the move. Unfortunately, we don't catch it, but they still throw energy here, which basically means we got the catch off anyway. The Drill Run, though, is what's thrown, so rather than taking a Rock Slide, which is not the best move, we end up taking a Drill Run, which does a lot of damage to us. They're building up so much energy at this point. It's a bit scary if they end up banking this, because then they can get both shields from our Shadow Dragonite later on, or potentially just one-shot us at this point. They swap out to a Gligar of all things. Gligar in this meta is kind of crazy, but it also kind of makes sense. Although I'm surprised they're running Wing Attack rather than running Fury Cutter, because Fury Cutter would make so much sense with the Psychic types, but it's just a Wing Attack user, which means they don't have a ton of energy to throw against us, and now they do throw a move. I think I survived, though. Dig is not as powerful as it used to be, and this is a non-Shadow Gligar. Yeah, that does almost nothing, actually, to us right now. We get this Moonblast off, we have energy on our Dragonite, so we can come in Dragonite, try to farm this down, and if we can get that Snipe down, we're in a really good spot, but they get a move at the last second, likely going to be an Aerial Ace here, but I don't want to shield this up. I know that Dunsparce has way too much energy here to invest shields right now. They come in Dunsparce, though. I am able to get off this Dragon Claw before going down. They get the full rollout down, but they're at 100 energy here. They had to overfarm to get that farm down. I can go for these Confusions. Since they're at 100 energy, they throw in Bad Timing as well, giving us a full Confusion sneak. And now, as long as I can Confusion this down before they get to a third charge move on this Dunsparce, I'm going to be in a decent spot having energy lead on my Oranguru. Another Drill Run does get reached, but I can Confusion them down before they get yet another move. As long as they don't have a hard answer to our Monkey, we should be in a good spot. What is it in the back? That is an Annihilape. We wait a turn there to make sure they don't catch, and we throw the Trailblaze to start ramping up our damage. This is fantastic. We do take neutral from these counters, obviously, and these Rage Fists would be resisted damage, technically, with the resistance from the normal type being a double resistance and only being single weak with our Psychic typing, but I am so low at this point. I still want to shield that up. I saw that they were trying to wait a turn that they were trying to catch, so we end up over farming, going for the Confusion down against the Gligar on the catch attempt, and now we have energy to throw against this Annihilape and knock them out with the Trailblaze. GG's for our opponent. Annihilape does have play in this meta, but not against our backline. Alright, next game, a Lickilicky in the lead, a very, very bad lead matchup, especially if they're running Shadow Ball. This is a huge core breaker. I'm going to try to catch a move. We don't quite get the catch, and they instant swap to their Shadow Drifloon. This is looking very bad for us right now. I'm going to bait that we have Future Sight, though. Shadow Drifloon is very squishy, so I know if we did have a Future Sight here, they would have to shield this up, and they do, so that's good at least. This is also like a really small Drifloon, I think. That's a extra small drip limit. It has to be. If it's not, that's kind of crazy. They throw move. I think I survive an icy one, so we no shield, guaranteeing that they have to throw the Shadow Ball to knock us out. And now we're forced to come in with our final Pokemon to absorb all of this energy. They're forced to throw in bad timing to get their move off before I get mine. I know I need to overfarm with our Oranguru as much as possible to have any play, but I didn't get that catch against that Lickilicky, so I know at this point Licky has so much energy. I don't know what could be in the back right now that we could beat, but I just have to hope that Shadow Dragonite is going to be able to beat whatever it's going to be. In the back, it does appear to be a Shadow Cantonian Marowak. This thing has a lot of fast move pressure, but we do resist ground type damage with our Shadow Dragonite. With that said, that Lickilicky is still alive. It can get so much damage off against us with these rollouts, and Body Slam is going to be spammed out so incredibly quickly. With that said, we might be able to overcome this with our shield advantage, but I'm getting put down into basically, I think at this point, Bone Club range from that Shadow Cantonian Marowak. If they land enough rollouts here to put me into range where that charge move would knock me out, then I'm going to be in a very bad spot. I think if they let this go, I can end up going for the fast move down against that Marowak if possible, and if not, then I guess at this point we'll have to see. They do end up coming in with that Marowak. They no-shield their Lickilicky. I have to make a catch. They're at the move right now. I'm going to try to catch it instantly. Unfortunately, I don't get the catch, but they're forced to throw energy here against our Oranguru, but they are one Mud Slap away. Can we fast move them down with our Shadow Dragonite before they're able to get the next move? No, just barely they reach it at the last second, taking the win against our Shadow Dragonite. One of the worst leads we could see, almost overcoming it. If we got that catch in the lead, we probably would have won that game, but unfortunately they played that one very well. GG's to our opponent. All right, next matchup here, the Shadow Dragonair in the lead, a very neutral lead matchup. We do win CMP against this, though, so as long as we don't get fast move down, which is a little bit luck dependent, depending on sneaks and denies here, if I can get this move off, we do end up getting it this game, which means we do get the shield or the knockout against the Shadow Dragonair. In the backline, looks like it's going to be an Oranguru. I don't want to give them that farm down because I like keeping my Dragonite as a catch later on. We have two Psychic types in the backline anyway. It doesn't really matter if we give up Switch, so I am coming in Oranguru, no shielding the Brutal Swing, and seeing what we can do right now. We still have that Dragonite, as I was saying, as potential fast move pressure or as a catch if I need it later on. We have a CMP here, it looks like. I win CMP, that's big information to know. I can overfarm as much as possible next time if I could, potentially get as much energy as I need to for the backline. They haven't swapped out yet. I'm hoping that means they're weak to Psychic types. I don't know if it does mean that, though, or if they just want to neutralize our Oranguru. Another Brutal Swing will be thrown. Will they shield it up? They let it go. And in the back is a Trevenant. This is fantastic for us. Our Oranguru, well, in theory, should be hard countering this, but am I seeing that right? Is that a Sucker Punch Trevenant? That is a Sucker Punch Trevenant, which means they have so much more fast move pressure, not only against our Oranguru, but super effective fast move pressure here against our Cresselia, and these Shadow Balls are only one Sucker Punch more expensive. So I either have to land this Moonblast, or I had to bait a Grass Knot if I wanted any chance of winning this game. They end up shielding the proper move. I think it's going to be a CMP now to the final attack. Shadow Ball with the Sucker Punch Trevenant is going to take us out. Sucker Punch is actually such a cool play here. Takes out the Orangurus a lot more. Obviously, it has a lot of play still against Cresselia, and it's just going to destroy us here. So GG's to them. Fantastic, fantastic spice pick by our opponent that game. All right, next match, Shadow Dragonite up against another Dragon type. Once again, though, Dragonite should be able to win CMP against most dragons, so as long as I throw the Dragon Claw here as soon as I get it, I should be able to be in a good spot. They end up catching, though, on Oranguru, which is alright, kind of, but it's a little bit tricky because that Arctivax does still have quite a bit of energy left over on it, but I can come in Oranguru of my own here, overfarm as much as possible, potentially get some energy to throw into the backline, and maybe we're still going to be in a decent spot. We can try to go for the CMP again. My Oranguru's not a super high rank, so I expect to win CMP a lot, but this one actually ends up winning CMP over me, which means this is a massive mistake going for CMP. Should have either thrown before or after this, but by throwing on CMP here, I'm kind of locked in at this point. Might as well go for the knockout blow if possible. That Arctivax could come in here, throw a Dragon Claw instantly, so I don't want a CMP just in case they do expect me to. I actually get a full Confusion Sneak there because they did expect me to throw instantly. If I can Confusion this down, there's still a good chance we can win this matchup. They do end up letting their Arctivax go, and now their final Pokemon has been revealed. That's a Dragonair. I need to get shields down. We can one-shot this with Moonblast as long as we can get both shields down, but I don't know if they're going to shield this next attack. It's just a Brutal Swing. They could no-shield this if they want, which could make my life a little bit more uncomfortable, but they double shield their Dragonair. I think I would have won either way, but that really helps out. It means that I can just one-shot them with Moonblast. They realize at that point Dragonair is sitting in the water. Alright, fantastically, we have two Pokemon with Grass-type moves, and I resist Ground-type damage with our Shadow Dragonite, so this is going to be a fantastic lead, but they safe swap a Clodsire, which is not exactly the easiest Pokemon for my team to I obviously have super effective confusion damage, and I get a lot of Dragon Breath damage against this with our Shadow Dragonite in the lead. But at this point, it's going to be just a question of what is their final Pokemon going to be, because I don't really care about switch advantage, but I also want to keep our Oranguru kind of healthy because we have so much energy on it. Stone Edge will be thrown against us, but I'm confusioning them down into range where Trailblaze will knock them out. If they end up shielding this, I can probably farm them down. If they no shield, I have a boosted Oranguru with energy against whatever is going to try to come in here. It's going to be a normal type, likely a Dunsparce. It looks like, yeah, Dunsparce does come in, which means that we can go for these Brutal Swings. It's going to trip it down quite a bit, but it's not going to be enough to just one-shot it, but it is boosted, so our opponent does respect it. In comes that Gastrodon once again. I survive a Body Slam, I know this at this point, and our Cresselia should be able to close out this game against that Dunsparce later on. Body Slam does get thrown, an easy survive by our Shadow Dragonite. This Dragon Claw should put them close to Dragon Breath downrange, so if our opponent no-shields this, I just tap them down. If they shield it up, then we can throw another attack. They end up no-shielding. In comes this Dunsparce once again, and this game is basically over. If they no-shield this, we can go for Grass Knots. If they shield this up, we can go for Grass Knots and Moonblast, and we have some energy left over on our Oranguru as well, so I don't think there's really much of a way we lose this game. The second we show Cresselia, this game is over. Our opponent, in theory, should top left here, knowing that there's nothing they can do, but it looks like they're just playing this one out, throwing Drill Runs against our Cresselia. They need 4 of these to knock us out straight up, and Ice have a shield, so basically 5 at this point. Even if they were at 100 energy, there's no way they're taking us out with how low their Dunsparce is at this point, so I guess they're just going through the motions here, trying their best to take us down, but we have a Brutal Swing still left over on our Oranguru. I can come in with it, try to combo play them. I end up letting a sneak through. Not that it really matters, this Brutal Swing does land against this Dunsparce, and now they're just in fast with farm down range, so we can come in, Psycho Cut them down, and they throw another charge move. I guess they really think there's a way they can win this one, but no, there's like no chance this Dunsparce has in the world of taking out our Cresselia here. We end up Psycho Cutting down. GG's to them. Our next game, Shadow Dragonite up against a Primape. This is the first fighter we've really seen today. It's actually a very interesting matchup because obviously Primape does outpace us to these Rage Fists, but if they don't bait an Ice Punch, I don't need to shield. So I can no-shield this, farm them all the way down in the one-shield matchup, but they end up going into their Goodra after they throw that Rage Fist, so they clear their buff, and they do end up getting a bit of Dragon Breath chip damage against our Dragonite, but because I got the Dragon Breath chip damage against them, they are now in range where a Moonblast from our Cresselia could one-shot them. I'm going to go for the Moonblast here in just a second, get the overfarm that I can before their next Aqua Tail. This Moonblast should knock them out. It might draw a shield, but if they shield once, they're going to have to shield twice. And I also have that Dragon Claw on my Shadow Dragonite loaded. If I get both shields down, I can probably one-shot them with that attack. They end up throwing another Aqua Tail. Goodra's charge moves are not where its main damage source is. The fast attack, the Dragon Breath, is where most of its damage is going to be. So I'm not that worried about shielding anything this Goodra's going to throw. They end up shielding again. We have this Dragon Claw. We make the combo play, and now this Goodra should get knocked out here. We have 2 shields to 0, and we have an Oranguru against what's going to be a Talonflame and an Annihilape duo. We don't quite get to that Dragon Claw, but the Dragon Breath damage that we get against this thing puts them basically into range where I can knock them out with a Brutal Swing. They attempt to catch the Brutal Swing on Primape, but instead I overfarm. I go for this Trailblaze, because I know Trailblaze at this point should be enough to knock out, make it so I can Confusion down this Talonflame. Our opponent's only win condition is landing a Brave Bird through 2 shields. No reason for me to call this. That is exactly what they go for. I'm just going to fast move down at this point. Oranguru able to close out that backline. Alright, next matchup, Shadow Dragonite up against the Oranguru in the lead this time. Alright, a bit of a neutral matchup here. The thing I don't like about this is obviously I have to throw after they do, or I have to throw on alignment, which would be very bad. So I have to overfarm a little bit, but luckily our opponent doesn't actually end up throwing a move first. So I know at this point that we can probably reach another Dragon Claw. We can shield this up, throw instantly, and get both shields down, or knock out this Oranguru in the lead. They go for a Trailblaze, actually. That's not a Brutal Swing. They're trying to boost their attack stat, which does make some sense, right? I'm going to shield almost guaranteed, and they're going to be boosted with a move for our backline. So a decent play by them, honestly, despite the fact that if I no-shielded that, it wouldn't have done as much damage, but we're a Shadow Dragonite. It basically would have done enough. We come in Cresselia here to farm down. Well, farm down is a word I probably shouldn't have used. We're just going to go for a charge move. We're going to tank the energy. Foul play. Oh my goodness, that's not even a Brutal Swing, so we take almost half of our health on our Cresselia. Very spicy moveset here from our opponent. Normally you just see Brutal Swing and Trailblaze. Here they're running Foul Play, which does a little bit more damage but costs a little bit more energy. In the backline, we're going to see that Dugong come in. Dugong, a very scary Pokemon if I was not able to keep our Dragonite away from this, but we have 2 Pokemon with Grass-type damage in the backline. I'm going to absorb the debuffs, but our opponent's actually doing a very smart strategy here where they overfarm as much as possible to make it a lot more awkward for me to swap out. They have the ability to throw an Icy Wind now if I swap out into our Oranguru. With that said, though, I'm still going to swap because I need to clear that debuff. They're in range where Grass Knot from my Cresselia should knock them out. In comes their final Pokemon. It's a Shadow Dragonair, down shields. I'm pretty sure Oranguru can deal with this. I don't know if I can Confusion down because they did end up transferring the damage, or they didn't transfer the damage with that confusion. So they are in the cycle where I could actually get outpaced by an Aqua Tail here. So I will have to throw energy if I want to knock this out. We throw the Brutal Swing. It should knock them out at this point. If this doesn't knock out, that'd be kind of surprising at this point. So we're going to see the Brutal Swing does end up landing, and now the Dugong does come back in. They're well within range of getting KO'd by a Grass Knot, and they overfarm to have enough energy to throw an Icy Wind against our Cresselia, but because they do that, this Brutal Swing has been reached, and now I can just Brutal Swing them, knock them out there. GG's to our opponent. Our next matchup, we're going to see Shadow Dragonite up against another Primeape in the lead. Alright, well, we saw how it played out last time. I'm just going to stay in, do my Dragon Breath damage, and see what they're going to swap into, or if they just play out the lead. They once again throw after 4. I know this is a Rage Fist. I can just no-shield it. I can go for the Dragon Claw as well in just a second to draw a shield from them, and if they end up staying in this matchup, they're just going to lose their Primeape basically instantly. They do stay in, they're just, I guess, going to sack their Primeape at this point. I don't know. Let's see. They no-shield. Okay. Well, they're just letting it go all the way down. In the backline, it's going to be a Shadow Dragonair. Not exactly the best Pokemon for me to see, especially when they have 2 shields in play. Even though I have Moonblast, they outpace us to moves. They have a lot of fast move pressure, whereas Cresselia has almost none. So they can probably 2-shield through us if they really want to. But with that said, I can get 2 shields from them, right? I don't have to shield these moves. It's Aqua Tail. It's not going to be Body Slam anymore, right? They nerf Body Slam, so Aqua Tail is their best move they can throw. And with that said, our Cresselia is so bulky. We can survive 2 moves here. My Shiny Cresselia is actually a very, very high rank one, so I'm able to survive these attacks very easily, honestly, not even close. They catch a move on Superior, so this game is going to be a little awkward, but I know landing this Moonblast is actually going to do more damage than a Brutal Swing would have done from our Cresselia, or from our Oranguru, rather. And I also got the attack drop on that Moonblast, once again, getting a little bit fortunate with these Moonblast debuffs. That means I can no-shield this freely. I'm pretty sure that that would do, honestly, that still did more damage than that Dragonair could have done, so probably should just double shielded this Oranguru against the Superior, but we're still in a great spot. We can overfarm a little bit, make it so that we can outpace that Dragonair to 2 moves, and we can probably knock them out using our Brutal Swings, even if we can't confusion them down. There comes that Dragonair. They are so low at this point. If they don't throw any charge moves before we get the back-to-back here, I can guarantee the win. No charge move comes through from this Dragonair. They did not have the back-to-back attacks. I have the back-to-back Brutal Swings. Our Monkey, once again, closing out the backline. Shield Advantage Monkey is just kind of crazy sometimes. Dragonair goes down, and GG's to our opponent. All right, next matchup, we're going to see Shadow Dragonite up against Annihilape. Okay, a different fighter. Bit of an awkward fighter, though, for us to see. In the backline is going to be a Lickilicky safe swap. We talked about this earlier, how it's a bit of an awkward matchup, but we catch a Body Slam on our Oranguru, so there's a chance we're still in a decent spot here. Body Slam does do a decent chunk of damage, but we're not going to be able to get just like one shot by anything they're going to throw, right? Even if they had Shadow Ball, that does almost nothing here against our Oranguru. I try to throw a move, but 4-turn into 3-turn moves, the timing is so awkward for the 4-turn move user, and they're having so much energy here, they can just start spamming out these Body Slams, and this next one, it won't knock us out, but if I don't start throwing on bad timing, then I'm not going to be able to get any of my energy off at all. I'm going to just take it, make it so I no-shield my Monkey, and now throw these back-to-back Brutal Swings. If they want Switch Advantage so bad, they can have it. I'm very strong against that Annihilape, so I think we're in a good spot as long as we don't go down shields. We throw another Brutal Swing here. They get 1 counter on their Ape if they come back in with it. We have energy on our Shadow Dragonite, so Dragonite can come in, do some fast move pressure against them, and get a Dragon Claw potentially, or just overfarm in case they want to swap out. As long as the backline Pokemon is not super problematic, we should be in a good spot. What is it going to be? It's actually double rollout here. I tried to swap out instantly, but the game is a little bit slow. It makes me take a rollout, which I did not want to take. That extra damage could potentially cost me later on if they can counter us down, or potentially roll out us down with that Annihilape. If they have Shield Advantage Dunsparce and they lean into it, this could be a little bit awkward. I have a lot of energy, though, on my Shadow Dragonite. There is still a lot of play for us this game. We get a shield with that Grass Knot as well, so that's fantastic for us to see, because now I can probably land Moonblast or even Dragon Claws or Superpowers and do more damage than that Grass Knot would have done. They end up throwing another charge move here. Another Drill Run is going to be reached. Luckily, this is not an Astonished Dunsparce, right? That would be the worst case scenario. It would do a lot of super effective fast move pressure, but they aren't really running Astonished. I've seen a couple people run that, but it seems like a very spicy pick to do that. We end up no-shielding here because I know it doesn't quite knock us out yet. We have another charge move we can reach, and we throw it against this Dunsparce, but I don't think I can reach another Grass Knot after this, so I'm going to have to swap out to our Shadow Dragonite and then try to get the shields down with these Dragon Claws. Our opponent makes a fantastic play, though. They wait. They see what I'm going to do. They end up throwing the Rock Slide before I can get a move off, and that is going to be extremely awkward for us right now, because now that they did that, I don't have to, they had to, shield second. They don't even have to shield their Annihilape. They might be able to counter us down before we reach these 2 Dragon Claws. They have us there. GG's to them. Very well played, honestly. That extra rollout that I took, though, that I was saying, if I would have been able to swap out a little bit sooner if the game didn't frame drop right then, that would have been nice because I was so close to the back-to-back Dragon Claws, but I guess sometimes that just happens. All right, this is a bit of an awkward lead matchup here. Our backlane hates to see bug-type damage, so very happy to see it in the lead. Go for these Dragon Claws, draw the shields from this Charge-a-Bug, and at this point, I'm pretty sure most Charge-a-Bugs just always go double X-Scissor here, and even if they don't, I'm in a pretty good spot to finish this off with our Psychic types, so we no-shield the X-Scissor. In the backline, they actually snipe us down with a Goodra, which is kind of unfortunate, but since they're down shields here, I know that our Cresselia can tank all of the energy, go for the double Moonblast, and we're still going to be in a good spot, right? Because that Charge-a-Bug, despite having an X-Scissor loaded, is pretty low, and I also know that Cresselia can knock it out with a Moonblast. Oranguru's Confusions and Brutal Swings would do a lot of damage to it as well, and we still have shield advantage here, so we're in a decent spot. They end up letting that move go. I farmed them down with Oranguru because I know I wouldn't be able to Psycho Cut down before I got another charge move, and in the backline is going to be their final Pokemon, the Shadow Dragonite. Very cool Pokemon to see a double Dragon team from our opponent, but we can shield this up. We're going to outpace them to back-to-back charge moves, go for these Brutal Swings, and then once that Charge Bug comes in, we should be in a very good spot having this much energy, and our Cresselia is not even in a range where we'd get knocked out by an X-Scissor, so there's no real way they're going to win this matchup despite having a Bug type with a decent amount of energy up against two Psychic type Pokemon. This Brutal Swing is going to do the least amount of damage of any of my charge moves, which it does make sense to no-shield at that point, but if you no-shield it, we can Confusion down, so GG's to our opponent. They didn't really have much play against that backline. It looks like the next matchup against a Clodsire lead, not the best lead, but not really the worst lead, right? They could have Stone Edge here. If they have Stone Edge, we outpace them pretty heavily. If they have Sludge Bomb, though, they actually end up winning the 2-shield matchup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go for the Overfarm here, catch a move on my Cresselia, because a Sludge Bomb is going to do so much less damage than an Earthquake would do, and I don't want to double shield my Dragonite. We have so much energy on it at this point. We should be in a decent spot. Once again, we get answered with our Cresselia with an Oranguru. This is not the hard check that people might think it is, despite taking a Sludge Bomb already. If they can't knock me out in 2 Brutal Swings, I can get to 3 Grass Knots and knock out this monkey. Grass Knot is reached here. I am almost at my second one. If they start shielding, that's fine by me. If they start no-shielding, that's even better because I can take down this monkey. We don't have a hard answer to it on our team. We have our own monkey. We have our Cresselia. We have a lot of energy on Shadow Dragonite, but no hard check to this Pokemon, so chipping it down as much as possible is going to be helpful. Looks like we can't quite get to the 3 Grass Knots, so going for this Moonblast instead should be able to do a lot of damage, put them into Dragon Breath farm down range, and now we have even more energy left over on our Shadow Dragonite. In the backline is going to be another normal and psychic type. It's the Shadow Girafarig, actually. A lot more fast move pressure than the Oranguru has. As you can see here, doing so much damage to us, we end up throwing a second Dragon Claw. We have the third as well. I'm going to throw it instantly just in case they try to snipe us down with that Clodsire. I could have done 1 or 2 extra Dragon Breaths here if I really wanted to, but I didn't want that Poison Sting to knock us out before we could reach it, so we just play it safe. We knock them out here because I know my Oranguru at this point can just shield farm down and make sure that I have the Confusion damage and the charge moves for that Clodsire later on. That's already been kind of chipped down by our other 2 Pokemon, right? So yeah, this is looking very good for us. A top left, GG's to our opponent. All right, Shadow Dragonite up against a Dunsparce. Very bad lead matchup, but we've seen what we can do here. Try to catch a Rock Slide on our Cresselia. If we get a successful catch, we're in a very good spot. If we don't get a catch, as long as they still throw energy, we're in a decent spot, but we did get the catch here. Rock Slide's not going to do much damage to our Cresselia, and they're going to stay in, actually, this time, it looks like. They're not going to swap out instantly. Okay, looks like they're going to store energy, come in Oranguru, so this is looking fine. Once again, we've seen this matchup. How many times today? Oranguru is not a counter swap to this Cresselia. We can go for these Grass Knots, try to outpace them here, and since they give us such a huge energy lead, despite that we took a bit of charge move and faster pressure from that Dunsparce, I think we can still get to 3 Grass Knots and knock out their Oranguru. We get the Grass Knot here at the last second. We're almost at our next one. We're 1 Psycho Cut away from that move. They're likely going to throw another attack, but I know that I can survive the Brutal Swing. Our Cresselia is so incredibly bulky, there's no way this knocks us out. I could probably even reach a Moonblast if I really wanted to at this point. We end up surviving that, a 1 HP. They tried to catch the Grass Knot, but I knew I would have survived it. I knew I would have got the Moonblast, and they end up catching a Moonblast on their Cresselia. Once again, an attack drop. What is up with these odds? Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter in this matchup specifically, because I'd still get one-shot by a Moonblast and these Psycho Cuts would do nothing. They end up baiting a Grass Knot even still, which is a crazy play, but it's working out for them. I can throw this Dragon Claw at the last second. If they shield, I throw a second one. If they no-shield, our Dragonite has so much energy, despite that Dunsparce having energy on it as well. We have the ability to shield that energy, get a lot more damage with Dragon Breath, with Dragon Claw. We can probably just close out this game once we get shields down with Oranguru. This Dunsparce is almost at half health already, just with fast food pressure that we've had with both our Cresselia and our Shadow Dragonite. We're going to chip it down even more. Now that they've thrown that Rock Slide, they're basically dry. They only have one rollout. They're 3 away from their next attack here, so I can go for these Dragon Claws to get as much damage as possible, or potentially draw their final shield with this move. They end up shielding that. I can come in Oranguru, just absorb all of the damage, and start adding these confusions up, making it so I have as much energy as possible for a potential backlane sweep. If they try to make a catch, I can throw my energy as well. We're almost at back-to-back charge moves, and we can just throw energy against whatever here. I don't want to take a Brutal Swing, so we play it safe. We throw this Brutal Swing against the Oranguru before they get to another attack, and we have energy for this Dunsparce. We can throw the Brutal Swing here, throw the Brutal Swing there, and knock out everything. Once again, Oranguru just closing out the backlane. Such a flexible Pokemon in this meta. Words I never thought I'd really say, honestly. But GG's to our opponents today. A lot of fun using Oranguru. It's a very unique pick. These limited metas, somehow they always draw out the most unique Pokemon. I never thought Oranguru would be a good Pokemon in the Go Battle League, but here we are. It's one of the best Pokemon in Retro Cup. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream my battles basically every day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, so if you want to see this kind of content live, please make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to upload a lot more to the channel, so if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe. Alright, well, thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.